We are emulating this. This Oando is listed, dual listing, under multiple jurisdictions in South Africa and Nigeria. And if the base and the home country is taking 175 days to put something like this out of the way, when major developments, market developments are taking place, a contract of $2.8 billion, which is infinitely higher than whichever contract you could have gotten this year. Now you are now lifting the suspension today. So many things have happened yesterday. At the time of this, before the suspension, what was the exchange rate? What was the inflation rate? What was the GDP growth rate? What was the economics of the country? And international investors who wanted to go in, shift their portfolios around at a time when Nigeria is going for an election. So you cannot, freeze the stock for 175 days and then after that, after the event, you now say, okay, you can now come and buy or sell. I think the lesson from this is that we shouldn't do that in future, and there should be damage control for this in terms of our reputation as a market and our reputation as regulators.
Well, you're landing that on where I wanted to pick up the next question about when regulators intervene, and not just the SEC, sometimes the central bank are also intervening in affairs of banks as well, and these have to be carefully managed. So when the word suspension hits the streets, what normally happens?
Well, panic. Suspension, the other word for suspension is suspicion. Why are you being suspended? And what is wrong?
Like when you were suspended, if we were suspended from school.
Yes,
and you
so go back and say, what did you do?
Yeah, what did you do?
Okay, so the word suspension is punitive. The word suspension leads to suspicion. And even where there was nothing, something, you find something. So what we should do, regulators have to be more sensitive to market, because markets are jittery. So and I think that's part of what is happening. I listened to the public hearing about the SEC thing and all that, and the Minister of Finance and the erstwhile DG of SEC all talked about the fact that market sensitivity, this is a very sensitive business, and therefore they were being very guarded and very, very tentative about the words they're using, because every word they say is going to be taken seriously. The Central Bank governor over the weekend also was extremely cautious about his pronouncements, because whatever he says could be misinterpreted and could send markets into panic. So I think we have learned our lessons, and what is important now is that the markets should settle down, and I think that you will see, I suspect that today you're going to see a lot of positive activity, because there's been a lot of demand for these stocks, especially in the sectors that are growing fast, the sectors that are bidding for federal government work, especially as we go into the budget cycle that is coming up in 2018. I see good signs, especially at this time when market volatility globally is very high.
In the manner of speaking, Mr. Rwani, do you think that over the last 6 months or thereabout, that the technical suspension on the share price of Oando could have put a bit of a cloud over the entire few oil and gas stocks that we have lifted? Because here, so we're talking about a company that's worth in share price north of 130 just about 8 years ago, and now at the rock bottom, as you use the expression here, at 599.
I think, to be honest with you,
if investors are going to be asking questions.
Investors are going to be asking questions about it to affect the entire sector. One. And that sector is actually the backbone of the market and the Nigerian economy, the downstream petroleum area. If anything happens to the price of petrol, anything happens to the price of diesel, it affects logistics costs, it affects aviation, it affects inflation, it affects so many things. So it is critical. And if this is a leading player, and as many other leading players like Forte Oil, Con Oil, Mobil, Total, it's important that there's a level playing field, and that you don't want the problem of one to affect the other. And that is what has happened. In the banking industry, people are very careful about even singling out a particular institution, because once there's fear, then everybody panics, and there's a run on the entire banking system. So what you do is to insulate the system from shocks, especially from perceptions and suspicion that something is going wrong. I think that's the role of the regulators, and they've done pretty well. All I'm saying that next time we should be very surgical. Whatever you're doing, look at it very quickly, finish it, and put it behind you, so that because markets are jittery. 1, 2, because of the fluidity of money and liquidity, people will move money from this market to another market. And so money that was going to come in, people will say, wow, why should I go in there if these guys don't know their ass from their elbows?
And that speaks to the ongoing forensic audit. What's your take of Oando? How soon do you think this should be done? They just started about 3 weeks?
No, the forensic audit should have been finished by now. Look, let them commit the resources. The market cannot wait indefinitely with a cloud hanging over any company. Finish it. If there's any infraction, deal with it and move on. We've seen that happen everywhere in the world. If there are no infractions, sorry, go away. If there's a minor infraction, slap on the wrist and move on. But this is critical. So a lot of people owe their livelihood to this. And more than anything else, Nigeria's perception, the reputation of this country has been cloudy, opaque, not sincere, not transparent, has to be lifted. We cannot afford to have that. What is not said is more important than what is said, what we call content analysis. Because investors look at you and say, well, oh, Nigeria, yeah, thank you very much. I don't want any of that. You don't want that kind of thing. Oh, Nigeria, yeah, these guys have come around. They are transparent. They're anti-corrupt and all, and move on.
We appreciate that. Mr.
Thank
Oando, this is your first word. I'm sure the conversation just got started. We're going to watch today the trading on Oando. Bismarck Oando, the CEO at Financial Derivatives Company and Channels Television economic contributor. Let's continue the conversation. Later on the program, we'll try and check in what the numbers are looking like as the lifts of Oando now begins this Wednesday, the 11th of April.